The issues you identified there were immigration, DEI, and woke. You think Democrats' problem was that you just didn't do a good enough job explaining the policies, and not that voters simply didn't just reject what you were selling, particularly on immigration, I wonder?
No.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years. Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election and that this was a major mistake by the
He made that decision.
What's going on, guys? We got to talk about Tampon Tim Walz over here coping and seething. Okay, Tommy Pickles over here is not wanting to accept the fact that his party has become the party of losers. Fake tapper of fake news CNN, legacy news CNN, clown news network is calling this out himself, saying like, hey, your party got rejected. What do you have to say to the American people? A Democrat operative in his own right, even though he denies it. Even this guy sees the truth, and Tampon Tim Walz does not want to accept it. Instead, he just goes on the attack against Republicans like these clowns always do, failing to acknowledge any problems in their party. Even Gavin Newsom in California is acknowledging problems with the party. Tampon Tim Walz needs to get with the program if he wants his 2028 presidential run to be successful. But we all know how that's going to go. Without further ado, let's go ahead and react to these two chopping it up.
I'm not here, so I told you so.
I mean, I'm here to say I told you so because we knew your ass wasn't going to win that damn election.
He's quitting the race. Is that right? Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic. It's so amazing. It's just so fucking bad. So
we've been talking about this. There's a brand new book. It's called Fight. And it gives a behind-the-scenes look into the 2024 election, including what former President Obama really thought about Kamala Harris, the Democrat, as the nominee. It reads, in private conversations, Obama flat out told allies she would lose to Trump. He was right. He did not think she should be the candidate and said, one confidant, he liked the idea of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer at the top of the ticket and Maryland Governor Wes Moore at the bottom. He didn't want a coronation of Harris.
Let me ask you, because another group you're in touch with, the United Auto Workers Union, you have a lot of that. They have supported you for years and years and years. They were excited to have you on the Democratic ticket. President Trump argues that these tariffs are needed to bring American manufacturing back and to help American workers left behind in places like Minnesota. He has support from the UAW. The UAW called his auto tariffs, quote, a long overdue shift away from a harmful economic framework that has devastated the working class. It signals a return to policies that prioritize the workers who build this country rather than the greed of ruthless corporations, unquote. I have to say, that sounds a lot like language you would use. What do you say to the UAW?
Yes. It is what I would use. And here's the thing that the Democrats have to figure out. Donald Trump's language around this, he's not wrong that we've had manufacturing gutted. He's not wrong that we saw an outshoring. People of my generation were told, you know,
the question is, what the hell have you guys done about it? You just had Joe Biden in office, Democrats in Congress. So if you know that this problem existed, what did you do about it? And if you didn't do anything about it, why now are you mad that someone else is doing something about it? That's what I'm having a hard time understanding here. Or are you just anti-everything Trump?
Any manufacturing job, so you need to go to college and rack up student loan debt. The problem is Donald Trump's solution to this is not the solution. And I think this is the Democratic dilemma. Donald Trump talks about the things that are real in the angst of people's lives. He doesn't do a damn thing about it. In fact, he does just the opposite, and he pals around with the people that caused the problem.
We literally got trillions of new investment already been committed in 4 months, more than 4 months than Biden in 4 years. What are you talking about?
$100 million isn't bad, Caroline Levitt. $100 billion, Larry. Don't underestimate the numbers.
Did I say
$100
million?
billion?
Not 100 billion. I'm sorry.
And this racks up the total of foreign investments brought back home to $1.7 trillion in 1 month since President Trump took office. It took Joe Biden 4 years to get $1 trillion in private investments secured. So President Trump has already surpassed what Joe Biden did in 4 years in 1 month. And that's why he's the greatest president we've ever had. And America is open for business, and the world knows it.
These people just say anything.
We don't offer them a solution, so it looks like we're not hearing them. So I disagree with Sean Fain and UAW on this issue.
Let me let you
I
hear
don't
that
think that's
again.
the problem, and we don't offer them a solution, so it looks like we're not hearing them. So
No
I
solutions.
disagree with Sean Fain and UAW on this issue. I don't disagree with them on that we made decisions over the last 30 to 40 years that I don't think helped America, but this is not the solution to it. Isolating ourselves is not the solution. We need to make sure that we're focusing. And again, I would just end with this, Jake. Donald Trump has not once ever cared about workers. This is why you need to support unions across the board, support the ability to have a living wage.
So you're in Ohio right now. You've been holding these
This
town halls.
whole situation with tariffs is a perfect representation of what's wrong with the Democrat Party right now, because the Dow Jones and NASDAQ have gone down. Now, are they down as much as they, like the record that they were down during the Biden administration? Of course not. It's not even close. However, that's all they care about, even though wages are going up and inflation is down. So the thing that directly impacts American people and jobs have gone up too. So you still got jobs, you got wages going up, you got inflation down, meaning prices are down. So that means that the price you pay at the grocery store is going to be lower, and it should be lower already. And the amount of money that you get paid should be increasing, especially if you work in some of these manufacturing type positions. So what's the problem? There's no issue with the stock market going down. Impacts who? Maybe people who are pulling out of their 401k right now, but the vast majority of people don't have massive amounts of stock invested. So their bottom line is with the prices and how much money they're making. That's doing good, and how many jobs they could get. Everything that impacts people directly is going well. So what the hell are these people talking about? All the Democrats care about is literally propping up the people, the millionaires and billionaires that they claim to so strongly hate.
In red districts across the country, you're saying Democrats need to do a better job of reaching Trump voters. I want to play something you said at an event in Texas last month.
We let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
I mean, the issues you identified there were immigration, DEI, and woke. You think Democrats' problem was that you just didn't do a good enough job explaining the policies, and not that voters simply didn't just reject what you were selling, particularly on immigration, I wonder?
No, on immigration, what we were asking for is a bipartisan policy that strengthens immigration control, that recognizes that we need a workforce here, that they should be allowed here legally, and that when they get here, they're part of the American fabric. And that is the bipartisan bill we had. Donald Trump.
Basically, they wanted amnesty, and they were lying to Americans, saying that it was some sort of bill that was going to secure the border. It was a lie from the beginning. What's sad is that I know dummies in real life who actually believe that this was some sort of groundbreaking bill, even though I literally showed it to them. You can just look it up online and see it line by line, but these people literally did not believe what they were reading, and it didn't take the time to read it. I don't know what the hell their issue was, but it was an amnesty bill, and it just allowed for illegal immigration to basically be legal, and that's not what the American people were asking for. We were asking for it to stop, not for it to keep going and be legalized, you dumb mother effers, and Donald Trump said it right.
The Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation, we must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
All we needed was a new president. And I would argue all we needed was a better president.
For us to them to say, we don't care that violent criminals come in, we most certainly do. What we were asking for is the resources to make sure they don't get here. And the same thing with the other policies. It's not a woke policy to provide food for children to get breakfast and lunch, and we get better outcomes from that. They defined things on their terms that weren't true. And what I'm saying is, are we going to turn away from being a country of legal immigration? Are we going to turn away from a country that thinks diversity and making sure that we don't have gaps in income between blacks and whites? Those are policies that have strengthened America. And I think what we allowed ourselves to do is we got timid. And then when we got power, we didn't pass things that improved people's lives. This whole idea, I think the Democratic Party
this is the
gets
only
theoretical.
Thing, the only thing that Tim Walz just said that was true is that they don't pass things that benefit Americans. So Tim is kind of cooking. He's cooking himself because everything he said, like trying to be woke as hell, doesn't work. It doesn't really achieve anything except it capitulates to a bunch of virtue signaling weirdos. In terms of improving the inequality situation, that is related to culture and education and incentives to get people into the workforce in ways that it's going to improve their life, not by handing someone a job that they are incapable of doing and screwing over entire organizations, compromising safety in order to do it.
The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine?
Pass things that improve people's lives. This whole idea, I think the Democratic Party gets theoretical, talk about food insecurity. People are hungry, get them food. People don't have a house. Make sure they have a living wage. That's the point that I'm saying is, Fox News will glorify, oh, he's for DEI. Not your definition of DEI. My definition is rule of law that's fair, that everybody gets an opportunity. And that's the point I think we have to make. Now, look, I'll be first to tell you, Jake, I'm out here doing what I can do. I don't know if I'm the best spokesperson to do it after just losing an election, but what I know is the public, and you saw it across the country this weekend, they're rising up and asking their leadership to do something.
So we heard your former running mate Kamala Harris say she's not here to say I told you so, although obviously that's what she was saying about all the Trump chaos. We're seeing, I have to say though, what does I told you so really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walz campaign for being too cautious. She may have told the American people, she may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. I think this is exactly right. This is the thing. Look, Democrats, it was a good night in Wisconsin. I was over there. We saw that happen. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this. And those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying
Oh, yeah? The cackling hens on The View were so freaking happy. They were elated at that stupid signal gate situation.
Sir, the question is he going to make good on this promise? Oh, yeah. What should happen here? Should we be saying lock them up? How does it...
They may have violated several provisions of the Espionage Act, which governs the handling of national defense information.
So the fact that he's saying, oh, they're not celebrating, yes, Kamala Harris was literally sitting up here laughing. What do you mean they're not?
Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
Okay, yeah, she knows she's not going to be running again, so it probably doesn't matter. I mean, maybe out in California, that doesn't, who cares? But in terms of, sorry to my California folks, but y'all cooked out there. But Tim Walz, he's probably going to try to run for president or something, so he knows you can't just be out here laughing at the country in America if something is going wrong, even if it's not really going wrong for the vast majority of Americans. But in his eyes, he knows that you can't laugh at a perceived failure of the Trump administration because it just makes you look like you don't care about the country. You just care about Trump losing. You would literally rather the country burn down and fail than to see Trump win, and it makes you look like a complete lunatic. It's about time these people just came out and admitted the truth.
That was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that. I do think the challenge for Democrats, and this is, I think, a structural problem that's going to take a lot more thinking. Why, with all of that out there, did they not think we were any better than that? And they didn't. And I'm very concerned with the folks who stayed home. And these are folks that I'll say once again, Donald Trump has identified their angst. They can't buy a house. They can't afford to get a good education. They're concerned that their economic future is so precarious.
If you knew all of this, well, this is the reason that they lost, because they kept telling people that, hey, the economy's fine. Stop being so uneducated and so dumb for not understanding how great the economy is for the millionaires and billionaires that we claim to hate and that we actually support and that throw money at us to keep us kind of oppressing the average American while lying to you guys and saying that we support you. But they literally lied to everybody's face. This is the reason why they weren't doing good, is because, well, I'm concerned about why they didn't support us. It's because they couldn't afford the damn groceries. It's because they couldn't afford rent. And you told them that they could, which didn't make any damn sense. You basically told them that they were stupid to their face, and they said, I'm not stupid. I'm voting for Trump.
It could slip out from under them. Less than half of Americans have $1,000 in savings. And I think, why was it not so compelling? It should have been a slam dunk for us to say, we're the party that cares about that. We're the party that's going to protect Social Security and Medicare. We're the party that thinks the ACA is a good start, but we need to do more on health care. And we didn't do that. So I'm concerned. Democrats do well in special elections and off-year elections, but the electorate that comes in presidential election years is different. When I was young, it was easy to know what a Democrat was. They stood with the working class and labor. Republicans were country club and for the rich. Today, you ask people, they don't. We have a 29% approval rating.
Yeah.
It doesn't help us any that Donald Trump ends up with a 25% approval rating.
Well, I mean, it's actually a 21% according to Quinnipiac.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers. They want to be more like Republicans, get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low.
The most shocking part of that was how you dipped down and you were able to get back up without hearing any creaking or cracking. Nice to be young, isn't it, Harry?
Get back to the core issues, that this is about making America prosperous and stable and innovative for everybody.
Well, what do you make of the criticism that one of the reasons why your party was so resoundingly rejected last November is because Democrats were gaslighting the country, saying that inflation was not a big deal, heralding Bidenomics. Not only Biden, but Kamala Harris was heralding Bidenomics, pretending that there wasn't a problem at the border. And then fundamentally, this idea that President Biden was up for another 4 years of the job, while Americans in poll after poll for year after year were saying he's too old to do the job. Your party stood against all of those things.
Look, Joe Biden coming in and during COVID and being a governor through COVID did a hell of a job. But I think one of the things that we didn't do is we assumed that we said, and it was true, that we were going to have a soft landing and our economy was better than the rest of the world. Better for who? Better for the working class who
Bingo.
was saying groceries were too expensive, as they are now and going up. They got to see us talk about things. Again, I go back to this. Don't talk about food in.
I just went grocery shopping. Y'all let me know if your grocery prices went up. Mine did not go up. I literally bought the whole basket full of stuff, $100. That's average for me. Y'all let me know if your grocery prices went up. Mine did not go up.
Security or housing type of issues.
Like most produce for groceries is produced in America. I just want to make sure that's clear. There's no tariff-based impact or very little. It depends on what you buy. But if you're talking about like food, so when people talk about grocery store, my grocery prices went up, that's a bold-faced lie. Inflation is down and prices are down for most goods. So like I need receipts.
People being hungry and wondering where they're going to live, or about their children's future, about real security. And so I think your question is spot on. I think we got intellectualized on this. I think the fact of the matter is Joe Biden did soft land the economy. He did usher us through COVID. None of us are saying we should be soft on the border, but we allow a vacuum, and Donald Trump fills it, the 800-pound gorilla, and their narrative starts to stick, and we look weak. We look weak like we don't care. We look like look, Jake, I'm not going to say, we need to do is we need to just arrest people and ship them to El Salvador. No, we need to invest the money on border. We need to make sure that we have the judges necessary to adjudicate things faster. We need to make sure if you're going to be in this country here legally, and when you are, you're going to be uplifted, celebrated, and part of this great American tapestry. We didn't do that, and then it fills them. They'll find the example that is horrific, where you have someone who's not here legally and they commit a crime. That is horrific, but we don't do a good job of telling that.
Don't you think your party needs to acknowledge that President Biden was not up for the job of running for re-election, and that this was a major mistake by the
He made
Democrat-
that decision.
I know, but you all went along with
He
the
made that
idea that he
decision.
was up for it, and he wasn't. And everybody saw it, and the country rejected it.
Yeah, well, look, history will tell us to go back on that. That very well could be the case, Jake. What I'm concerned about is learning from those lessons. I would hope we would never do it again, make a mistake, make sure we go through and get someone. But I don't know where it helps us going forward. I certainly am deeply concerned that Donald Trump is going to lead us down a horrific... Look, thank God it's tariffs that he said. Donald Trump listens to no one. Remember,
this guy, guys, okay, he just did what he said the Democrat Party's problem is, not admitting the truth. It's okay. Just admit that you were wrong, the Democrats are wrong, it never should have happened. If you just say that was like a few seconds. We were wrong, the Democrats were wrong, it never should have happened. Say that, end it right there. If somebody wants to ask follow-up questions, I got nothing else to say about it. It was a mistake. That's all you gotta say, and people will have more respect for you. But trying to like go on this defense force or trying to like pivot and try to do an Uno reverse and attack Donald Trump, guys, you got to be able to admit the truth here.
Donald Trump has statements about, I don't think nuclear war would be that bad. I guess we're lucky that he went after tariffs instead of that route. Yeah. We have an issue in this country that is going to impact us. And if there is not a loyal opposition, if there's not some soul searching on our side, if there's not reaching out to those folks who are in the streets, they're leading right now.
So quick question.
I would tell everybody, you better get with them. Yeah.
Quick question, because we got to go. But you said you're not going to run for the Senate seat there. Are you going to run for a third term for governor? Are you possibly going to run for president in 2028?
Well, I'm certainly thinking about running again in Minnesota if that's what they want. I am not thinking about running in 2028. And my advice to folks is if in this moment you're planning for 2028, you're going to get rolled by the people in the streets. You just need to be out there making sure you're helping and doing things like Cory Booker's doing things like Bernie Sanders, AOC, things that we see people out talking to folks. So for me, I'm going to get through this legislative session. If the folks in Minnesota want me, I'm kind of inclined to do that. And I just want to play my part to make sure we cannot afford to allow Donald Trump or his successor to go forward, because you're seeing the pain.
Do you guys really think that Tim Walz isn't trying to set the stage and lay the groundwork, the foundation, so that he can run for president in 2028? I don't know. I mean, maybe he doesn't want to be humiliated again, because obviously he literally was running as vice president. So maybe he doesn't want to get cooked again, because obviously I'm sure he knows that people are making fun of him. They're making fun of the way he looks. the way he does his stupid, crazy hands. And I don't know, he just is a freaking complete bozo. Like, there's nothing about this guy that instills or should instill any confidence in anyone. It's hard to believe that anyone will vote for this clownish individual. He literally looks like one of the Rugrats. That's why I call him Tommy Pickles, because he just looks like a fool, much less when you start to hear him talking and see the stupid faces and dumb mannerisms that he has. Okay, it's one of the most awkward and goofy politicians, maybe the most awkward and goofy politician that's actually, you know, in an elected position that I've ever seen. The fact that these people in Minnesota voted for this clown as governor is astounding to me, to be honest with you. I'm like, damn, y'all don't got nobody better than this. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Do you think that Tim Walz had the right messaging here? Or do you think he fumbled? I feel like I noticed many mistakes, as I always do, with Tampon Tim Walz and his delivery here, because I know that Joe Biden was the president, but because of him, he's one of the biggest reasons. Kamala Harris was bad enough, but Joe Biden is probably the biggest reason why Kamala Harris didn't win. Is because her being a DEI hire ended up screwing her over in the long run, because Joe Biden was so freaking bad. He was so bad. Kamala Harris being his VP and connected to that and not wanting to denounce him totally screwed her over, and the Democrat Party was culpable in putting this freaking fossil, this dude 6.5 feet in the grave, basically, up for re-election. But these are just my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Look, Tim Walz is a complete moron to me. I have to be very honest, and I'm not surprised why the American people did not choose him.